On the night before our wedding, my 29-year-old male wife and 28-year-old female confessed to cheating on me. But she's pregnant now, and I'm at a loss for what to do. So my wife and I married when we were 23 and 24 years old. Since we married, she's been the best thing that's ever happened to me. Anyway, she just told me she's pregnant, which should have been wonderful news. However, the day after she informed me, she said, "We need to talk." When she sat me down, she told me she was nervous about our wedding and our friend the night before, who also happened to be my best man, allegedly helped her calm down. She claimed they had a few drinks together and that one thing led to another. I hadn't questioned him about it since we had him over for supper the night before the confession. I'm currently at my parents' beach house. I just needed to get away from it all to figure out what I wanted to do. I adore my wife, and I am one of her caregivers in the aftermath of our child's death. First update. Okay. So it's only been a day since I read the first post, but there's already been a change. The question is no longer whether or not to forgive her, but rather what to do next. I won't provide any more updates until I'm asked or something significant happens. So I confronted my friend. He lives near my parents' beach house, where I'm spending my vacation. So I invited him over for a chat. Here's a summary of what happened. So after a few casual exchanges, I sat him down. I could tell he was perplexed, perhaps apprehensive, but he maintained his smug demeanor. I wasn't looking my best, but I could tell he was tired of seeing me. I sat him down, and now that I've had a few beers, I'm going to write in script format because it's easier for me. "How are you, wife?" "Him? I'm not certain. I saw her the last time I saw her at your house." "Okay." Because I knew what had happened, I left it as open-ended as possible to see if he would admit to anything I hadn't already known. Above, he eventually confesses after some denial and a phony misunderstanding. "Didn't she tell you we'd been F?" These are his words, not mine. Not in great detail from me, but that's why I'm here. She wasn't lying at all. Following that, I proceeded to ask him a number of questions that I now regret asking. A little emotional self-harm, I believe, but he was more than willing to respond, which was terribly off-putting. I wish I didn't know things like how frequently, when, and where, among other more humiliating details. Because it's now playing non-stop in my head, and I'm a complete moron. The one thing he's certain of is that the child is not his. I'm not sure why he's so sure, but I'm inclined to believe him for some reason. Anyway, I went to provide the best possible life for my baby. I did everything correctly. I earn money. I'm appealing. I exercise, and I treat my wife like the goddess I believe she is. All she needed to do was allow me to love her. And I would have given her everything, our child. We had recently purchased a home. I was overjoyed when she told me she was pregnant, only to have this happen. Following this encounter, my friend offered to hang out with me to ensure that I was okay. We've been friends for years, and he's aware that I've struggled with mental health issues in the past. And he was doing me a favor by looking out for me. But, to be honest, I think he just wanted to stay and drink all of my liquor while laughing in my face and sleeping with my wife. I punched him, and he said he deserved it before walking away. I texted my wife to inform her. I was aware of the continuing link. She replied, "Let's talk about it in person," to which I replied, "I do want to look at her." She didn't respond. In any case, this is where the advice comes in. Naturally, I believe abandoning her is the next logical step. I really don't want to do it. I know it's not appropriate for a woman to say. I know I should want to exact vengeance and leave her with nothing, but that's just not in me. I had a plan for my life, and it included this. I know it's difficult for people to believe that things aren't always black and white, because they were the first words she said to me every day. I assumed she loved me. I'd leave if she wasn't pregnant, and I'm still thinking about it. All I want to know is how to be a good father and ex-husband. Tane would ideally have primary custody, but as we all know, that isn't always easy for the male. The most obvious is financial assistance. Second, I'm curious where I'm going from here. If I ever get to meet her in person, and I don't want any more details because what my friend gave me is a terrible knowledge that will last me a terrible life. She is currently staying with us, something I didn't plan for because I wasn't expecting it. There will be no prenup. My parents are wealthy bohemian artists who will provide no emotional support. They were swingers for Christ's sake. This annoys me. Update 2, I'd gotten some good sleep. And, despite having slept all day, I feel rested. I've scheduled a meeting with my wife, who has agreed to cook us dinner and sit down to discuss what happens next. I'm aware that many people have advised me not to see her, speak to her, but I'd like to know why. I also need to notify her that I intend to have a paternity test. I've appreciated everyone's kind words and constructive criticism. I feel like I have a small community on my side, which has helped me get through this in a healthy way. Perhaps it was a distraction, but I needed it. And I'd like to keep anyone who's interested in the restroom because it makes me feel heard. Thank you once more. Update 3. The supper was held. She made my favorite meal. She was dressed to the nines. She was attempting to make my life difficult. When I entered the house, I was eager to see her. I struggled as I entered the house and smelled her cooking and perfume because I had spent the entire time in the vehicle preparing what I was going to say and trying to think about all the F-up things my buddy told me to fire myself up. She tried to kiss me, but I pushed her away. She offered me a drink, which I accepted, and I took a seat at the table. She then brought me my dinner and sat down. We sat quietly for a while as I ate. I hadn't eaten since learning the news. So I was surprised that I was able to get in a few bits before the stress of the situation overwhelmed me. I finished my drink and asked, "So, why did you do it?" Her first remark, while she was preparing another for me, was, "I'm not." This infuriated me. How could she have been so blind? So I said it again, and this is when she started to open up a little more, as if she sensed my frustration. She sat down and explained to me that she was simply stuck and that she desired something other than me in greater detail. But that was the plan all along. She told me she loved me but that she needed a break from reality every now and then. When I asked if the baby was mine, she said it was, and I asked how she knew. She also mentioned that a friend of hers had a vasectomy. That appears to be something he would have said to me. So I told her I didn't believe her and demanded that a paternity test be performed. She readily agreed, as she always does. After she agreed, she was always nice and open to my ideas. I inquired as to why she did not communicate with me. If she was upset, if she needed a break from reality, I would have paid for a trip or a short vacation, or if she wanted to start a new hobby, I would have been completely supportive. While saying this, I began to cry. She got to her feet and pressed my head against her. This is where I erred. I just sobbed and hugged her. As she comforted me, she lifted my head and kissed me. Because I knew it was the last time, I didn't push her away for a few moments. I was going to have an intimate moment with her, and I wished to lament her embrace. After a while, I snapped out of it and stood up. I went to the bar and ordered a drink. One more drink before telling her we were divorcing after the exam. This is when she began to cry and told me that I needed to be there for our child because she wouldn't be able to be the best mother she could be without my support. Apparently, I am her pillar of strength by her side. I was about to leave after some back and forth, but she suggested that I stay because I was drinking. So I went to sleep in the guest room, but she insisted on sleeping in the same bed for the sake of tradition. I let her sleep on me, but I remained lifeless in her arms. Then I snuck away. I returned to the seaside cottage as soon as the sun came up. I consulted with a lawyer. The most recent update, I'm back at home, and she's also here. We're not sleeping in the same room, and I'm not going to take her back. It will simply make the divorce process easier. It wasn't her idea at all. It was all mine. We tried on my first day back, but I couldn't make it work because there were too many pictures of her and my buddy. She appeared to have come to terms with the divorce. She has briefly begged and insists on her love for me. I told her I still loved her, but that I couldn't forgive her. We haven't talked much since then. I've spoken with my lawyer. Tonight I'm going on a date with a woman. My lawyer advised me not to see anyone during this time, but I feel the need to do so now that I'm feeling better. I went through a dark period in which I considered some horrible things, but I quickly snapped out of it when I remembered my possible child. I'm also so valuable to so many people that I can't wait to revert to my human form. I appreciate everyone checking in on me even after a few days have passed. Things have moved so quickly that I'm amazed at how quickly one's life can change. I received a drunken phone call from a friend, and while I understand why he did what he did to me, it is not an explanation. And I'm not going to forgive him. The phone call most likely jolted me out of my funk. He practically revealed to me that he was bitter and jealous of me, which boosted my ego. Thank you very much. Once again, thank you to everyone.